Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Hong Kong and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel many times before. Now I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years, a good few different styles, and if people were to ask me about this brewery I would say that they are very solid all round, although for me the trademark of this brewery is just how nice their beers are to drink. You know, the kind of cleanliness and smoothness of them is something that is quite unique to this brewery, I would say. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is one that I've had from them several times before. It's a style that I know these guys do very, very well, and this is one of their kind of core range beers, if you like. So it's going to be nice to do a proper sit-down review of this one and just think about it a little bit more. So needless to say, I'm very curious to try this beer again. Hopefully it's as good as I remember. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then we are going to stick to the Kowloon side here in Hong Kong, but we're going to go round to Kwun Tong, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from Hong Kong Beer Co. So this particular beer is called The Peak. It comes in at 4.9% ABV, and this one is a Pilsner lager. So yeah, like I said, I've had this beer a good few times from this brewery. I do really quite enjoy it, and this is a very fresh can actually that I got out of their hole in the wall that they have in the back of the brewery, which always has a nice selection of their beers, we have to say. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. I think this might be the only lager that this brewery produce regularly, but do correct me on that in the comment section below if I have that wrong. But yeah, let's get a look at this one and see what it's all about. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Hong Kong Beer Company before, and we will no doubt have more to add to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist along with a number of other things. That's been added to quite regularly, of course, since I am based out here now, but do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Hong Kong Beer Company then. So Hong Kong Beer Company, as I've told you before, are actually the oldest craft brewery here in the Hong Kong SAR territory. So the history of this brewery goes back to 1995 when the company was established as South China Brewing Company. And the man behind this kind of first incarnation of the company was David Haynes, who is originally from Colorado in the US and is a clinical psychologist by trade, but also a big beer enthusiast, which makes sense when you think that he's from Colorado. Very, very good beer state. But his wife worked as a China analyst in one of the big financial firms, and she encouraged him to go for it and found his own company. So he went to the US and visited different microbreweries over there to do some fact finding, and during this time David encountered a guy called Peter Bordeaux, who was the president of Sazerac, quite a major American beverage distributor. And after having quite a long question and answer session, if you like, Peter Bordeaux agreed to help finance David's startup company. So it took them about a year to navigate the Hong Kong bureaucracy, but they managed to get the legal right to brew beer, and they opened the first brewery in the Vita Tower in Aberdeen on the southern part of Hong Kong Island. They released their first beer, which was called Crooked Island Ale, and this beer basically spread by word of mouth to different pubs across Hong Kong. But the brewery had a few years of success, and then it started to sputter, and eventually they had to become a contract brewery to kind of keep their financials in order. But the company was then acquired by Harmony Assets in 2003, and at this point the name was changed to Hong Kong Beer Company, and Harmony distributed their beers through their bar chain El Grande, but production was only around 120,000 litres of beer per year by 2009. But the quality of the beer continued to kind of stutter a little bit, and eventually they ended up having their beers contract brewed by somebody else. But in 2013, the brewery was purchased by Devon Otto Kimball and Daniel Flores, who are the team behind Brewworks brewery and restaurant down in Singapore. So they stayed involved in the company until about 2020, but under their guidance the brewery was completely revamped from the ground up, and they brought in brewmaster Simon Pesh, who had previously worked for Pyramid Brewery in Berkeley in California. So he helped to get everything kind of off the ground, and he stayed with them until 2018. But they relocated the brewery to Chai Wan on the eastern part of Hong Kong Island. There they were operating a 20 US barrel brew kit, which is around 3,200 litres per brew, and that brew kit came from GNVW Systems, and today they're producing in the region of 600,000 litres of beer per year. But there was another change in ownership in 2020, and the current brew team is now headed by Philip Rankmore and Matt Bradley under the guidance of James Waters, and Philip is from Sydney. He's the one that you'll find if you actually go down and visit the brewery. He's almost one of the kind of faces of Hong Kong Beer Company these days. But yeah, Philip is originally from Sydney in Australia, and he studied chemical engineering and then gained his brewing diploma from the Institute of Brewing and Distilling before going to work in Korea for Goose Island and then Budnamu. But he also spent time teaching brewers in Korea and Hong Kong. But in 2024, they relocated their production again to Kwun Tong in East Kowloon, and they've been working to build up this facility over the last few months. And this year in 2025, they opened up a little hole in the wall in at the back of the brewery, which is usually open from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. every day, and you can go along there and buy a few cans and kind of drink the beer outside in the little park that's there, which is always quite nice. So I would recommend that you go and do that. But yeah, as of June 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced about 100 different kinds of beer. September 2025, I'm saying the wrong month there. As of September 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 105 different kinds of beer, according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt continue to increase. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Hong Kong Beer Company for the moment. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, or you can of course check out the Untappd page to learn a little bit more about all of the different beers that these guys have done. But yeah, I would recommend, if you get the chance, my favourite beers from this brewery have to be Hey Hey Hazy, which is their New England double IPA. Beautiful, beautiful beer, that one. Hazy Days you can't go wrong with, but I also love Big Wave Bay, which is their kind of West Coast IPA. That one just really hits the spot for me and gives me everything I want from the style. So we need to review that one on the channel for you a little bit later on. But yeah, let's go on to this one then and have a wee look. So yeah, the artwork on these Hong Kong Beer Company beers is quite distinctive. You know, the symbol of the brewery is right at the top of the can there. All of their core range have kind of slightly different colours, like the Dragon's Back, the Pale Ale has a sort of greeny colour to it, the Big Wave Bay is a kind of darker blue, the Amber Ale is the red one, and then yeah, the Stout is the black one. But yeah, they've all got this kind of type of artwork to them, and they're usually named after local features and things like that, the core range beers at least. But yeah, like I said to you earlier, this one comes in at 4.9% ABV. It's a Pilsner lager. It says on the side here, crisp and refreshing craft lager with a delicate biscuity character, slight malty sweetness, and a subtle floral and citrus hop aroma. So yeah, really nicely presented, this one. Let's get it out into the glass then and have a wee look at this. So yeah, as I mentioned to you earlier, for me, Hong Kong Beer Company's beers, one of the things I really like about them is the sort of oily, slick and slightly, you know, quite clean mouthfeel that these have. It just makes them really nice to drink, and I like to think that if I was given a beer blindly and told it was from Hong Kong, I could pick out and tell you, yeah, it's from this brewery. And yeah, these guys just have a very, very distinctive mouthfeel. But yeah, we've got this guy out and into the glass. So before the head disappears, we can see that it's poured with just about a 2/3 finger of quite a soapy, bumpy white head there. You can see some medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid there, and a few kind of soapier ones the further up that you go. But you've got a lovely kind of pale golden straw colour to this one. It looks very, very nice. So yeah, that's kind of what you would expect from the Pilsner. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few different things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker coloured beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. You don't often have to care about that though when it comes to the Pilsner style, if you like though. So yeah, nothing untoward about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. You can see it's got a little touch of well, it's actually pretty damn crystal clear. I think it's just the condensation on the glass. It's got a tiny little bit of like a natural haze to it, but yeah, it is pretty much a crystal clear beer, this one, so it's obviously been filtered. But yeah, when it comes to the Pilsner as a style, so this style originates from the Czech city of Pilsen, and it's from about, you know, the 1840s or something, if I remember correctly. And at that time, what is now the Czech Republic was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So the city of Pilsen was lived in by ethnic Germans and ethnic Czechs. But the Pilsner style was actually developed by a Bavarian brewer who came into the town. That beer is, of course, Pilsensky Prazdroj, or Pilsner Urquell, as it's also known. So yeah, that is where this style originates from. So yeah, basically that German brewer was kicked out of the town after a few years because he was a bit of an arse, from what I understand. But yeah, the legacy of Pilsner Urquell remains, which is great. So do go and check out Pilsen if you get the chance. But yeah, this style is of course a lager beer. So the technical definition of a lager in comparison to an ale is that the lager undergoes fermentation at a lower temperature using a bottom fermenting yeast. So about 8 to 12 degrees Celsius is normal for the is a normal temperature for a lager to ferment. And yeah, the Pilsner, as I say, originates from the Czech city of Pilsen, but these days you've kind of got the Czech Pilsners and the German Pilsners, and for me the Czech ones are a little bit more kind of yeasty and smooth, if you like, whereas the German ones are very, very clean and very crisp. And I did notice that on Untappd this one is listed as a German Pilsner rather than a Czech one, so yeah, it'd be interesting to hear Philip's perspective on that. I'll need to ask him about it. But yeah, as I say, nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is, and we've gone through all the kind of technicalities and history of the style, if you like. So let's move on and have a little look at the aroma of this beer then, and see what it's going to have in store for us. Oh yeah, I love the aroma of this one. I probably should have got 2 cans to do this review and done it in like a stein or something like that, but yeah, could easily drink like quite a few of these. It's crazy. But yeah, this one gives you everything you want from this style, and as I've said on the channel very often, when it comes to lager beers brewed outside of the Czech Republic, Germany, Austria and so on, what I look for in them is authenticity. I want these beers to taste as they would in Germany and to smell as they would in Germany or Czech. This one really does that, so first thing, big thumbs up to them. Yeah. So it gives you everything you want. You've got a nice kind of floral note to it, a little touch of fruitiness, the sweeter backbone and the crispness. So yeah, the backbone of your beer, you've got that fresh white bready bread crust in there. There's a wee tiny hint of woodiness, a little bit of cracker. So yeah, fresh white bready bread crust in there, a little bit of wood, a little bit of cracker. On top of that, there's a little tiny hint of like wholemeal brown bread in there, but that's very, very minimal. But yeah, you've got some nice fresh white bready character in there. And at the back of your nose, there's definitely that little element of, you know, crisp Pilsner malt in there. It's so nice. I love the aroma of a proper Pilsner lager. Yeah, it's so good. So on top of the white breadiness, yeah, you're getting the little elements of kind of McVitie's digestive biscuit. That you're getting the little elements of McVitie's digestive biscuit that you would normally get, and yeah, the way that all of that kind of goes together in this one, I think, is really quite nice. It gives you everything you want from that nice crisp Pilsner malt. At the back of the nose, however, you do start to get the yeasty side of things coming out of the beer. So for me, the yeasty character in this beer, it is kind of more white bready leaning in a way. So yeah, you can smell that little bit of white bread to it. Lots of cracker and lots of that kind of crisp, sort of crisp fresh bread crust coming out of this one. Yeah, the way that goes together is really, really nice in this one. The malt base is so important in these beers for me. I think it is really, the authenticity in this one is pretty damn good. So yeah. As I say, you know, the Pilsner is quite a straightforward style in terms of what it gives you. I think it's a little bit underappreciated in honesty, so I really do enjoy doing lager reviews. But of course, since I've been out here in Hong Kong, most of my reviews have been like the more American style craft beers. I miss doing reviews like this, in all honesty. So yeah, need to find a route to get some other German and Czech things out here. But yeah, malty and yeasty side of things in this beer is really nice. So let's have a wee look at the hoppy character. So usually when it comes to a Pilsner, there's a couple of different hops and things you can use in these. You can use your Hallertau or Tettnanger Mittelfrüh hops. The German hops are going to give you a little bit of a kind of smoother earthiness and a kind of brighter grassiness, whereas the Czech hops, the Czech Žatec, Sats as it's also known, that gives you quite a distinct floral spice. So with this one, I'm kind of curious with it. I think it's maybe using more German hops than, I think it's using German hops rather than Czech hops, in all honesty. But yeah, be curious. Again, I need to ask Philip about that. But yeah, you've got a lovely little bit of smooth earthiness and there, a wee touch of woodiness to the hops as well. Some nice floral aromaticity, and it's the grassiness. I think it's the kind of wet, like freshly cut grass in this one that makes me think it's German hops. I think that's absolutely fair to say. So yeah, the green component of the aroma here is absolutely lovely. So yeah, it gets a really, really nice mix of things coming out of it. So yeah, I like that with this one. Yeah, so the fruity side of this beer then, just to round it off, very often in these Pilsners you do get a little bit of fruity character out of this one. So for me, there's a little touch of like oily pear in there, maybe a wee bit of like dried apricots, sultanas, you know, dry white green grapey notes. That's kind of what I get out of this one. There's a little touch of a sort of lemony note just mixing in with the kind of grassy character that this beer has. So yeah, the aroma of this one, I have to say, is very, very authentic and very, very nice. But I think at this point we've said everything we really can about the aroma of this beer, so the only thing left to do is have a taste of it. So yeah, this one is the Peak, a Pilsner at 4.9% ABV. I think we're probably going to have a German style Pilsner here rather than a Czech one, in honesty. But this one comes to you from Hong Kong Beer Company in Kwun, Tong, Kowloon here in Hong Kong. So let's have a taste of this and see what it's all about. Slàinte, skål, cheers, Gambe. Oh yeah, it's just such a nice, easygoing beer, this one. One thing I'll say about it is that it's not the driest of Pilsners that you're going to come across. I've come across quite a few German Pilsners that are really very, very crisp and very, very dry, and they're so easy to drink. Yeah, this one is very easy to drink, but it's got a nice smoothness to it. It almost has, it's maybe almost like 25% Helles lager and 75% like Pilsner, if that makes sense. It's just got a little bit more smoothness to it than some of the other ones that you're going to come across. So it finds a really, really nice balance for me. And as I say, Philip's beers, they're always very smooth and just very drinkable, and some of them are a little bit slicker. The IPAs are that little bit slicker, of course. But yeah, I really do like this one. The only thing I'd recommend that they do with it, to be honest, is maybe sell it in like 440s or half-litre cans. The 330s for me are just a little bit smaller, but I think from what I've been told, the reason for that they use 330s, most of the breweries here in Hong Kong, is about shelf space. And you know, the height at which the supermarkets have to have their shelves. I think there's some regulations about that, if I'm not mistaken. So that's why you don't see 440 cans in Hong Kong all that much. So random fact for you there. But yeah, as I say, this beer is giving you everything that you want from this style. I think it's right on the money. So let's break the flavour down and just describe it for you more in depth, as we always do. And of course, normally you would gulp this beer, very, very easy to do. But yeah, let's go to the middle third of your palate then, the backbone of the beer. You've got that fresh, white bready bread crust just forming the backbone of the beer. As you move further forward on the middle third of your palate there, so you've got the fresh white bready bread crust, you've got the Jacob's cream cracker sitting on top of that. There is a very slight layer of like wholemeal brown bread in there, but very, very minimal. Then above that, you've got the slightly drier and fresh but fluffy white bread coming out of this one. So that is really nice. So remember, with your palate, the sweeter flavours are going to come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours will come out further back. So the Pilsner malt that sits above that white bready character, the dryness, the crispness comes out further back on that middle third of your palate. Then yeah, as you move further forward, yeah, as you move further forward, it's a little bit kind of smoother and things, and you've got the sweeter layers sitting on top of that as well. So yeah, the way that that goes together is really nice. Let's focus on the sweeter part of the beer, that little circle that's in the middle of your palate there. So yeah, the sweeter side of this beer, for me, it's the sweeter side of this beer. It's got a little bit more of a at the dead centre palate. You can feel it's a little bit more kind of caramelly, and it's almost just got a little bit of like Werther's original butter candy butterscotch, or even a little bit of a fudgy character to it. There's just a slightly sweeter character there in the dead centre of your palate. But yeah, as you move toward the edges of that circle, it's definitely more biscuity, like a little bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuity kind of character that's in there. So yeah, the middle third of your palate in this one, I think, is really quite nicely done. So yeah, let's go to the back third of your palate then. As I've often said, the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. So yeah, the border region, pardon me, between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there. Got a little touch of brown bread in the base, the fluffier white bread in the middle, and the Pilsner malty crispness on top of that. But yeah, the base of the back third of your palate, the white bready bread crust is there, the cracker sits above it, the brown bready layer is a little bit lighter, taller and more airy. The white bready layer above that again is a little bit lighter, taller and more airy, and you can feel the crisper Pilsner malty character just sitting on top of that, which is again really, really nice. Yeah, so on top of all of that, you start to get the yeasty character coming out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at the yeastiness in this one. So yeah, the yeasty side of the beer, for me, at its core, it's got a little bit more of a kind of brown bready character at its core. It's kind of like a sweet brown bread, and then yeah, around the edge it's a little bit more kind of brown bread at its core, a bit of a sweeter kind of white bready character around the edge of that. Then yeah, a little bit of bread crust and kind of cracker around the very edge there. But yeah, the back third of your palate, you can absolutely feel that the flavours are kind of taller there, and then as you move into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of compresses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, that gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I like that with this one. So yeah, let's move on to the hoppy side of things then. I think the malt base in this is really nicely done, but like I say, it does have a bit more of a kind of Helles type quality to it for me. It's got a little bit more kind of smoothness, if you like, which I do enjoy. As I say, I really like this beer. So hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a little touch of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, that kind of smoothens out, there's a wee bit of woodiness in there, and then yeah, as you push further forward down the toward the front corners of your palate, there's a nice little bit of floral aromaticity in there. So round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more kind of grassy, if you like. And yeah, that grassiness kind of lingers into the aftertaste. So yeah, the way that that goes together in this one, I think, is really, really quite nice. So yeah, the grassiness in this beer is really quite nice actually. So yeah, in terms of the green component of this one, I think yeah, more German, I want to say. I'll say that though and I'll be wrong, I bet you. But yeah, I think German hops in this one, Hallertau or Tech 9 Mittelfruit, maybe a bit of Pearl or something like that, one of the slightly higher alpha acid ones. But the floral aromaticity in this isn't too pungent, that's for sure. But let's go to the front third of your palate then and have a look at the fruity side of things. So yeah, the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. You've got the brown bread in the base, the white bread in the middle, then the more Pilsner malty character on top, and the base of that front third of your palate, white bready bread crust, cracker, brown bread, white bread, and just a wee touch of the Pilsner malty crispness just creeping through there. And on top of that, there's that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, let's have a little look at that. The fruity side of this beer is exactly what you would expect from this kind of style, if you like. On the back half of that front third of your palate. You've got a little bit of a kind of drier sort of sultana, you know, white, green, grapey character underneath. There's an oily, peary character to this as well. Then as you move further forward into the front half of the front third of your tongue, there's a little touch of an almost gooseberry-like note, and then maybe a wee hint of a limey character just behind the very sort of front tip of the tongue. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really quite nice actually. So yeah, the way that everything pieces together in this one is really nice, and it gives you everything you'd want from the style. Like I say, there's a little hint of Helles to this beer for me, but it's very, very enjoyable, this one. As I say, 500ml can of this would be ideal, but yeah, I understand why they don't do that. So yeah, let's round off the review then with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So for me, top end light bodied, I would say. Carbonation, yeah, carbonation is very, very kind of smooth in this one. As I say, this beer, it's very, very clean, and it has that kind of trademark sort of cleanliness and slickness that I would expect from a number of the Hong Kong Beer Company beers. The malt base is a wee bit of dryness underneath, smoothness in the middle, and a slight sweetness on top, and then yeah, you've got that slightly oily fruitiness that comes out of this one as well. It's a lovely lovely beer, this, and I think it goes together really, really nicely. So yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about this one. If you enjoy a good Pilsner and you're looking for something authentic in Hong Kong, I would really recommend that you have a go at this one, the Peak. The other very good Pilsner, I would say, is the 5,000 Years from Dead Man Brewery. You can't go wrong with either of those two, and the one that's just called Beer from Heroes as well, that's also very solid. So we do have a nice selection of good kind of Pilsner lagers out here, if that's your thing. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. So this was the Peak, a German style Pilsner at 4.9% ABV from the wonderful Hong Kong Beer Company in Kwun, Tong, Kowloon here in Hong Kong. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Hong Kong Beer Company as well, and we will definitely return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But until then, slàinte, skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out HK Beer Company's social media, and I'll see you guys in another review very, very soon. Ciao just now.